Close M&A Podcast with Caver Hill Advisors. I'm your host, Craig Castelli. And today my guest is Brendan Anderson, founder and partner at ScaleCo, a private equity firm in Cleveland, Ohio. Brendan, welcome to the Close.
Hey, Craig, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
So let's go to the beginning. You founded ScaleCo in 2018. Tell us, what was the idea and why did you think it would work?
We had been investing in these lifestyle businesses for a very long period of time. We did a kind of a soul searching and decided that we reflecting on the portfolio, we were much more successful when we stayed closer to home. And I also knew or believed strongly that we needed to build ours to actively support these companies through that transition from really founder or owner driven to more sustainable growth companies that would drive value and continue to grow for a much longer period of time past the founders operating days.
Yeah, I mean, there's a huge need for that in the market. There was back then, there is today. We've been hearing about the silver tsunami, as they like to call it, and all these baby boomers who own businesses and are supposed to be selling them in mass. And I'm still waiting for that to happen, I suppose. But there's going to be a continual need for what you guys bring to the table.
It's one of the places that it's obviously extremely hard to do, but it's one of the places where I believe it's still very wide open. There are very few people that want to do that hard work, and I get a big kick out of it. I mean, this is people ask me what my hobbies are, and I frequently say this is my hobby, because when you can pull it off, it's really transformative to the sellers and the employees and our investors.
Yeah, you can really change a lot of lives, no question, and you're rolling your sleeves up in the process. So over these 8+ years that you guys have been doing this under the ScaleCo banner, how much has your approach evolved or changed over this time? Or has it?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same market, but I think what becomes obvious as you've been at it as long as I have, that it just comes down to the right people, and it's really finding the right people, getting it. If you know this market right better than we do, but it's a market where when you get in these companies, they've built a wonderful culture, they've built a wonderful cash flow, but there's some infrastructure that needs to be built out, and so it's finding the right people that can work within the existing culture, make some of those changes, and I think that the biggest change that in my mentality is once you get the right people and you get the process in place, and I hate to use the word professionalize, but it's almost de-risking the transition of the company. The change is just to think bigger. Just think bigger. Get people to say, well, what could this company look like? And sometimes it takes longer than a lot of kind of the traditional private equity model. It may take 12, 18, 24 months to really make that transition. But once you get there, it really does free you up to think bigger and potentially move faster once you get that done.
What are the key trends today that are influencing what you guys do?
Yeah, I would love to say, it's hard to talk about to any investor or operator today without talking about AI, and without a doubt, it lets you move faster and you put your dashboards together faster and pull data together faster and get quoting and respond to customers and all. And there's many more things that other people are doing that we need to start doing. But I do fundamentally believe that disruption is a good thing. It lets people kind of reevaluate opportunities and so forth. But our focus is still the same. We kind of dipped our toes outside of the Midwest, and it wasn't as successful as staying in the Midwest. We would love to find great Midwestern-based companies and either find or help them recruit other wonderful managers that really see that is a great use of the next 3 to 10 years of their life, right? It's you think about how long we're in truly operating mode, and that's a big commitment to convince people that this is a great use of their time. So I think it's a similar market, but potentially moving a little faster. And I would say one of the biggest issues we've had with companies is getting the infrastructure in place, in being able to generate the data and that we really need to operate a business. And I think that's getting easier every day.
Is that a scale issue, or is the challenge more just resistance to change and getting everybody on board with a new way of looking at numbers, a new way of reporting data?
Probably both, but I would say it starts with the scale issue. When you make an investment in a platform, a small company that's on QuickBooks, and it just sometimes it's hard to get the data and interpret it. And so if we just even getting dashboards in or some sort of predictive metrics, sometimes it's taken us years to do that because of just the people aren't used to generating the data. The historical data is not there. The list can go on and on. And I think that the great thing about today is kind of mapping that data so at least you have a stake in the ground at a period of time when you can start generating the data is it can just happen a lot faster. And I think most managers, I chuckle. I have a partner who came in from Riverside, and he's always like, we got to get this data. And I'm like, well, it's really hard to get the data. So if we as ScaleCo can provide the infrastructure so that at least the data is coming in, it may not be great data, but at least it starts coming in, and we can start being much more helpful in gathering and interpreting the data.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I can imagine that's an adjustment for him because Riverside's investing in companies that are 5 to 10 times the size of the companies you guys invest in. So there's usually a little more meat on the bone there on day one.
With much deeper pockets, to fix some of those problems too, right?
Sure.
So yeah,
exactly. So if I'm a business owner and I'm listening here today, how do I know that I'm the right fit to be a ScaleCo platform?
That's a great question. Our ideal platforms are wonderful. I use the word lifestyle business more to describe a wonderful business that the owner has almost intentionally decided not to invest in scale, not to invest in maybe a CFO that could handle a bunch of acquisitions, maybe a director of sales that could handle 20, 30 reports, because they didn't need it, right? They're making a wonderful living. They've intentionally decided that they've got a neat, wonderful niche business. And the people that would sit back and say, wow, if I had unlimited time and unlimited capital, what could I have turned this business into? And so, what we would love, and probably all the other investors out there, would be somebody that acknowledges the current state of their business and then sees the upside. So obviously we want to pay a market value, and we would love if they would roll and participate going forward in the way in which that they would best see fit. But we understand that respecting their legacy and respecting their current culture is extremely important, but they've got to understand that there's also certain things that have to change. So it's really that kind of that belief in the future and kind of aligning with that. And we're blessed where we can spend the deal that Caber Hill and we worked on together, Cap City. That was a deal where we worked with Chris for probably 2 years in advance of making that investment. And he, a wonderful entrepreneur who kind of saw that future. And so it's really being able to spend time with those people, get to know what they want. I'm not saying it takes 2 years on every deal, but we've taken that, and we love that period of time in advance to make sure we're all aligned.
Yeah, well,
so a long answer to your question.
Yeah, no, but it's a great answer, right? Because if I go to your website or the website of another private equity firm, you're going to tell me size parameters and industry parameters and geography parameters. And that's always a great filter to whether or not I pick up the phone and call you on deal A versus deal B. I mean, I know you a little bit now, so I know beyond that. But, let's say we didn't know each other. That only tells me so much. There's always a lot more to the business that's going to either align with what you're trying to do or not. And what may not be a great fit for you may be a great fit for some other private equity investor who just brings a different approach, has a different angle on the sector, the dynamic. Some firms only want to partner with ownership. Some firms only want to partner with the next layer of management. And, there's all these different, distinctions that, make what seems like a homogenous, asset class actually very, very different from one fund to the next, to the next, to the next.
It really is. I'm serious about this. This is really my hobby. There's the idea of being able to block off a time on and just kind of think through a company in the future. It's a lot of fun for me. And if it makes it even, and that was another reason that we decided to heavily focus in the Midwest, because it really kind of lets you increase that velocity of potential managers that you can work with, get to know, and so forth. And so it's been a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. So you touched on this a little bit, but go a little bit deeper as you're evaluating that next ScaleCo platform. What about the company is going to make you the most excited?
It's the potential. I think about somebody brings an idea, and we've worked with some very small companies where somebody comes in and they said they've got this company that I've heard of, and here's what I think we could do with it. And so what I view it as the potential or unlocking the value, and if you obviously without the platform or the company is the first part, but without that next piece of the manager, and it's a manager that will not only bring themselves but can also recruit other people. It comes from a prior life, probably usually a successful life. And it's one of these things where you say to yourself, sometimes you kind of pinch yourself and go, wow, it's an amazingly small company. And the people we're able to recruit to run this company are, they're impressive people. They've grown companies. They've done wonderful things. So not only is it that I believe I see the potential, but they see it too. And like we mentioned earlier, giving up a big chunk of their lives, their operating lives, to come over and make this a true life-changing event for them, and that's important, extremely important.
Are these often passion projects for some of these managers, or is this really just they're looking at it through an analytical lens and they realize that there's some untapped market that they can come in and help tap?
I think that without being able to see the untapped market, I don't think many people make that leap. And so we can turn it into a passion project. It turns into a passion project for me because I look at it and go, wow, this is so exciting. And you and I discussed before this started, that Budco financial opportunity. When we looked at that, outside of Bud Bryan and me and him convincing me that there was some much bigger upside, it was a one customer company with without a management team or a location, because we bought a division of Budco. Yep. And so but it was one of those things where, again, probably took us 6-9 months to really understand Bud's vision for what could happen, and the fact that he could recruit a team that he'd worked with before. You're like, man, that checks a lot of boxes and gets you really, really excited. And that's a deal that we've been working with for a long time. I'm looking at the calendar. It's been 13 and a half years, but it's been a wonderful 13 and a half years where, we've offered, exits and so forth along the way, but it's really turned into a heck of a company.
Yeah. That truly was, an idea. There was a business there, but, it was small. You had a guy at the top who was one hell of a salesman. Right. And
one hell of a salesman.
That guy could sell anything to anybody. And if you could just build the infrastructure around it, which you did, the thing takes off.
And can I tell the connection you and I have that I just found out? So it's crazy small world. I just found out that Budco's lawyer was Craig's dad. And so I've been talking to him for 12, 13 years and never put the combination together. So it's a crazy small world story. So it's like,
I think I realized this when we were working on the Cap City deal, but in the thick of that, never found the opportunity to bring it up, and then time passes and you forget. And as I'm, fresh enough for this today, piece those pieces together. And so my very first professional job, my first, internship was at Budco, not the financial division necessarily, but that was being built while I was there, as I was working on, some finance and marketing projects for them, in the city of Detroit. Great company, great city. That classic example of that, Midwestern business with a lot of potential that you guys love to invest in.
Wonderful Midwestern small world story. It's just as crazy. Yeah. Anyway, it just was that's wonderful.
Yep. So, I guess we could probably use, either Budco or Cap City as an example, or any other company that, you think makes the most sense. But, obviously you bring capital to the table, and you touched on some of this around, data. But if you're connecting with a business owner, all right, a business owner who probably sees the potential, because every business owner wants to sell, talks about the unlimited potential of their business. Yep. They don't always fully appreciate all the steps that need to be taken. So what are the problems that you help a business owner solve other than liquidity that they can really appreciate on the front end?
Yeah, when I started ScaleCo in 2018, my goal was to build infrastructure around where I see that almost all small companies need. And the companies we invest in may need some of these or all of them, but what I firmly believe is that if we as ScaleCo can deliver five fundamental things, the company will be worth more. And why? Because it de-risks, it professionalizes, and it turns arguably something that not many people want to invest in into something that a lot of people invest in. One is obviously size. If we can get the company larger, above 10 million of EBITDA, that obviously adds a value, but obviously everybody's got that goal. And so what we have invested in very heavily is, first and foremost, is we focus heavily on the team, and we have built. I'll give Holly Adkins on our team the credit for actually formalizing this, but we have a very formal meeting, kind of pulse information exchange. It's built heavily around the entrepreneurial operating system, EOS, founded there in beautiful Detroit, Michigan, by Gina Wickman, and then we've taken that to a kind of in my opinion, a whole nother level where we have all of those meetings in a project platform. We document to do kind of what everybody promises they're going to do on a weekly basis, monthly basis, quarterly basis, annual basis. We have all of our processes documented on Monday.com, and it's used across the platform. We'll even use it with advisors like you guys when we're buying or selling companies, or our outside advisors that are working on healthcare and so forth. So it's an integrated system that I'm extremely proud of. In what it sounds insane when you have something that's that detail oriented, but it really does help us recruit better managers and managers that want to follow a process, want to follow a system, want to be held accountable. And Dave and I, who run ScaleCo, we're on there too. We're held accountable just like everybody else. And so number one is we deliver an operating process that helps us recruit better managers. The second thing is the financial reporting. It's crazy, but after all these years, when we have deals that we have trouble with financial reporting. So we have a full-time director of finance, Dan Piak, who works to help us recruit great financial talent in these small companies. He's a backup to them. He came out of PwC, and so we will deliver good financial statements, not only looking backwards but delivering forward. We're looking forwards in dashboards and predictive metrics, a huge key part to our value add. We also understand that most of the companies we invest in have not built the organic sales infrastructure. So we do that. We'll put in the CRM. We'll even put in the inventory management systems and all of that work. Some of that's done internally with us. Some of it we do externally. But we will also help them build their organic sales infrastructure. We have we will go in, not to put the structure in, but we'll manage the beginning part of that sales infrastructure. And organic sales growth is by far the most valuable piece of that puzzle. And so we love companies that have a wonderful customer base with no sales infrastructure, because we believe that we can use that ideal customer profile and build on that and truly expand. We get it growing organically, huge value add. And then last but not least, almost all small companies don't have the ability to do the corporate development. And this is probably much more standard on the private equity function. But I spend a lot of my time, Dave spends a lot of his time, and then Charles Harris on our team is a full-time BD person, heavily focused on add-on acquisitions. And so once you get a wonderful management team and great financial reporting, you get your infrastructure in place, and you're growing organically, you should be able to do some tuck-ins and add-ons that help truly transform companies. And it sounds like 101 stuff, but it's been hard. I've been at this for 25 to 30 years, and to actually get all of that in a process is, I realize I'm extremely slow when it comes to this, but it's been hard. It's been
it may be 101, but 101 ignores the 30 fires that are placed on the desk of a CEO all day, every day, that make it difficult to tackle these projects, because a lot of these projects, they are fundamental to the business, and they really build the platform to allow you to grow the way you grow, but they don't create immediate gratification. and they don't solve whatever problem is plaguing you right now in the moment. And so, you really need, but structure, and EOS is, I'm sure, a great tool to really create the accountability that everybody needs to do this. But, it creates that structure to propel the business forward.
Yeah, it is. And it's a wonderful, I look at EOS and the process as it's a language in which people can communicate. And I love it. In the beginning, when we start a platform, a lot of those meetings are just like you said, blocking and tackling. How do we get data? How do we get the next salesperson on? How do just really blocking and tackling? And then as the investment goes on, the conversations get a lot more exciting about how to launch partnerships and how do we handle this growth? And that's it's a fun transformation of those meetings and discuss in process.
Glad you mentioned your partner, Charles Harris. He is probably one of my top 5 favorite LinkedIn follows. And I don't spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, but he has a very humorous take on his business development and personal branding. And I recommend everybody go look him up and follow him, because, even if you're not, going to be doing business with ScaleCo for whatever reason, the entertainment value is pure gold.
Yeah, it's interesting. Charles and I go way back. When I first came to Cleveland in the late '90s, Charles and I, he was running around looking at deals. I was running around looking at deals, and he and I almost bought a frozen sauerkraut business together, and then kind of lost track of each other. And many years later, Jim Mara, we were at a Jim Mara barbecue in town, Cleveland, former Blue Point BD person, and yep. He was like, "You and Charles have a similar view on life," and now I'm going to actually question Jim's rationale there when I look at some of Charles's posts, but we'll see. So it's been good.
Yeah, no, you guys have built a great team. I mean, it truly sounds like you practice what you preach, which is also a hard thing. I find it hard in my line of work. I analyze companies. I give feedback to CEOs and business owners about what they need to improve the overall, marketability and sellability of their own business. So I don't always want you to ask me how much of that I implement in Cabra Hill. Sometimes we're doing a great job at some of these things. Sometimes not so much, if we're being honest.
It's funny you say that. I view that with the addition of Dave Jacob out of Riverside, and recently Matt Sweet out of Align, and then with some of the operating people we brought on, ScaleCo is going through a similar process that we ask our companies to go through, where I think for most of my career, ScaleCo was a founder-led and inspired business. And it really, the last 2-3 years have been taking ScaleCo through that same process of developing the processes and hiring other people to make the right decisions, and empowering them to be in that spot. And so it is crazy how, sometimes the cobbler isn't working on his own shoes, or the doctor, But yeah, it's a very good point.
Yeah. Well, I mean, kudos to you guys, because I think you've done a great job attracting that talent, and it showed. So let me ask you one more question, and then we can get out of here. But as if you haven't done enough of this already, I'm going to ask you for one more piece of advice for the business owners out there, something that they can take back to their companies and maybe make them a little bit more attractive to ScaleCo tomorrow than they are today.
Yeah, I believe it or not, I'm going to go back to kind of Bud Bryan, and he was a big QoS person, quality operating system, which was an Edwards Deming kind of system, the total quality operating system. And his thesis was all profound knowledge comes from the outside. And what I fear about a lot of small business owners is that they've been in their own loop for so long, and they've been talking to the same advisors so long that they're not hearing a lot of other people's thoughts, concepts, right or wrong, about things that they're doing. And so I would encourage people to just continue to reach out. And it's hard to do, get in the spot in life where it's you've got a lot of things going on. But that'd be my advice. It's every time I do it, I'm happy I did it, even if I don't like what people say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that feedback is necessary. You don't have to like it, but if you learn from it, that's the important thing. So, yeah. Brendan, it's been a real pleasure. If people want to find you or learn more about ScaleCo, where should they go?
Our website, scaleco.com, or reach out on LinkedIn, or my email is banderson@scaleco.com. If have some wonderful ideas about business growth, give me a ring, or give me an email, and we'll set something up.
All right. Yeah, please do look Brendan up, and thanks everybody for watching us here on The Close.